Hello. So, welcome to the aptly called Midnight RambleCast, where I'm about to ramble about a book that I read. This is not the main Space Channel 9 podcast, but I have a feeling that because I read so much, and I'm often disappointed with the results of that reading, that I would like to ramble about it for just a really long time. And specifically, this one has to do with the Zombies podcast that is going to be released quite soon. If you ever hear me drinking, I am also drinking some Sprite Zero in a stemless wine glass because that's how fancy I'm feeling upon this day. Mind you, it's Valentine's Day when I'm recording this, and I am alone in my apartment. So, there's that. And there's no alcohol. Because why would there be? Or chocolate. Which recently I haven't been into chocolate lately, but that's kind of beyond the point of what I'm saying. So, the Zombies podcast is the main Space Channel 9 podcast that's going to be released quite soon. That'll just be a deep dive into the world of zombie horror and what makes us afraid of it. Now, I'm not sure that this novel in any way resembled anything close to scaring me. Not that I'm usually scared of like horror books or anything of like that like ilk. But I think you can do, like, I feel like the novel Feed by Mira Grant did a lot in terms of zombie literature. Not that I think zombie literature is like an actual like type of literature, but it's they're often in the sci-fi section, lesser in horror section. So if you are looking for a zombie book, I would go into the sci-fi section because you'll most likely find something about that or like virology. Because Feed by Mira Grant, the book I was recently talking about just earlier, is I found in the sci-fi section at Barnes & Noble, my local Barnes & Nobles. Great novel. It has so many strengths, and it's fabulous. The other book, the book I'm actually talking about right now for this me rambling on and on cast, is called Typhoon by Wesley Chu. Now, Wesley Chu is a primarily science fiction author. He wrote the Lives of Tao, I believe, trilogy and the Io duology. I recommend them both. They're absolutely great. This is not one of his best works. He has so many strengths in characterization and really making characters likable and giving them a lot of personality, and I think that was severely lacking in this novel, and I think that's just because he took on too much. Like in Tao and Io, basically like there's just one main character, and you might like get kind of like there are other characters, but they're not. There's a lot going on in Typhoon. So the full title, gird your fucking loins, is Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead Typhoon. I believe it's the 9th in the Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead novel series. Typhoon by Wesley Chu. It's a very long, stupid title, and to be completely honest, I got this at an Ollie's. Which, if you don't know what an Ollie's is, because you're not based in a place that has an Ollie's, it's like a discount store where you find just random crap just laying about, and you know, just shit that you don't need. And this I got about a hardcover version, $28. Normally, I got it for like $3.99, which you know, at the time I was like, what a steal! I love this author. He's great. And after having read it, all I believe like 380 pages of the glory that is this fucking novel, I realized, no, that was not a steal. And I would have preferred a floppy back so that I could, you know, not have like a 2-pound version of this novel. And like I was really reeled in by this cover. Like if you look up the book, you'll find cover art. I will get into the book very shortly, but if you look up the book, you'll see like the cover art, very pretty. very beautiful. And I really love reading like novels based and set in China because I'm a weird person. I watch like Chinese television a lot, and I think some of the most interesting culture is from China, and places like that. I'm also very fascinated in Japan, but I feel like that's a common fascination, of course. But I do really, really, really love China, and certain parts of it, yes, are very unsavory. But I'm not going to get too political. This book tries to be political, but that's just a little precursor. I say a lot. I'm so sorry. Yeah, like I do tend to gravitate towards novels that are set in China, and so I was very fascinated by this one because Wesley Chu's previous novels that I've read were not like based in China, so I was very interested in what he was gonna do for this one, and I found that it was not great. So I'll start off with what the cover of this novel has the longest explanation, which you don't need. Like, a back of the book explanation for a novel does not need to be like seriously 3 paragraphs long. I mean, I could read it all for you, but I don't even know if it's worth it. And there will be some hopefully I'm not going to mispronounce anything, but I might. Honestly, 'cause I don't speak Mandarin Chinese in any way fluently. But so the zombies in this world are called Jiangshi, or Jiangshi. I'm not quite sure the specific pronunciation. I'm really sorry. And yeah, and it basically centers around the main character. His name's Wenju. It's ZHU, so I'm assuming it's Ju because that's usually how that's pronounced in Chinese, and I could be wrong. His full first name is Wenju, so I'm just going to call him Wenju just so it's less weird if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. And he's kind of an ass. I don't really like him, and I didn't really like him for like a majority of the book. So I'm going to read you the blurb. It's not really a blurb, it's like 3 paragraphs, but hang with me. We'll get there. In the aftermath of a horrifying outbreak, the last remnants of the Chinese government have estimated that 1 billion walkers called Jiangxi are currently roaming the country across this desolate landscape. Large groups of survivors have clustered together for safety in settlements that have been built to protect against the unceasing Jiangxi onslaught. In one of these settlements, the Beacon of Light scavengers of vastly different backgrounds struggled to provide supplies for thousands. Before this devastation, Wenju was one of the millions of poor farmers who left their rural roots for the promise of consistent employment in one of China's booming factory towns, Elena, and that's barely even discussed. I know I said I wasn't going to stop, but it's so not really discussed. It's like a paragraph. So I don't know why it's on the blurb when it's completely unneeded information. Like, it's completely superfluous to the plot. Elena was an American teaching English in China while taking a gap year before beginning law school. That's barely discussed. I even forgot she was going to go to law school. My god. Heng Yen. I could not pronounce his name the whole time. I still don't think I can. It's Hengyen. Heng Yen is what I assume it is pronounced as. I don't know, but bear with me. He's one of the better characters. Very superfluous, in my opinion, to have any of it be focused on him, but he's a good character. Heng Yen is. Grizzled military officer of some renown and passionate believer in his nation's ability to surmount any obstacle, but with the settlement's 3,000 mouths to feed and the scavengers having to travel farther and farther away in search of food, Wenju ends up at his home village where it's shocked to find survivors. Does he force them to join the settlement or keep their existence a secret? Meanwhile, a veritable typhoon of walkers is headed toward the Beacon of Light when the conniving leader of the Beacon, Secretary... I'm gonna go Guao, but it is Chi-U-O. So if you know, please inform me. But I think it's Guao. Or something of that extent. Unknown. I don't know. Takes Heng Yen with tasks Henyen with rounding up all the survivors in the area for a desperate last stand. The military man sees it for the foolish, futile directive it is. Ever the patriot, though, he will fight with the settlers to the very last. But Ju finds himself caught between his love for Elena, his duty to the beacon, and his desire to flee with the villagers. With time running out, stakes higher than ever, these three must figure out how to survive the overwhelming odds against them. Now, isn't that a fucking mouthful? Excuse my fucking language. Isn't that a mouthful? I mean, like, do you really need 3 paragraphs of explanation to convince you to buy this book? And if you feel as an author that you need 3 paragraphs of explanation to convince someone to buy this book, then I think you're doing something wrong. And much like this ridiculous, insanely long introductory blurb, this book is trying so hard to do so many things. There's like 5 plots. There's too many characters that we focus on individually. There is Wenju, there is Elena, there is Haobo, there is Henyang, there's another guy. Oh my god. And he's like a huge dick. Let me find it. Wangfa, sorry. Might be Wangfa. It's Wangfa, so if you know. Wangfa. And then Secretary Guao. And there's just so many goddamn people. And then there's Mei Li, which is the girl of the settlement. Then there's his sister that is there. His sister, Ahui, I think her name was. Ahui. Yeah, like, fuck. There's so much happening. And, like, when I was reading the book initially, I was really bored. Like, it started off and I was like, there's nothing happening. Like, it starts off and they're, like, doing a scouting mission. Wenju and Elena and Haobo are part of the wind team. They're, like, windrunner team. They're scavengers that work for the Beacon of Light, which is this basically, like, communist, like, very, very Cultural Revolution, communist China, like, Maoist shit that's, like, you know, it's like working at Disney World where they're, like, constantly, like, when you work at Disney World, which I have, not that I'm going to divulge a whole hell of a lot of information, but, you know, I worked there right before the pandemic hit, so I didn't work there for long, but it's like when you're, like, you know, walking in the underground area for Magic Kingdom, because I worked in Magic Kingdom, and you just see, like, the banners telling you to smile and be happy and all that crap, and that's very much how it was in this, like, settlement. They had, like, I think having a speaker system would be really stupid in, like, a zombie apocalypse, but they had a speaker system, and they were, like, broadcasting, like, I don't know, like, quotes from, like, Mao or some bullshit. Like, it was so much, and I feel like the speaker system would be a dumb thing to utilize during a zombie apocalypse, but, you know, live your fantasy, do what you want with life. I don't know what I was thinking, you know, that was dumb. But it starts off, and, you know, they're doing, like, scouting mission, and then shit goes awry. And, Wenju gets separated from Elena and Haobo, and Elena and Haobo go back to the beacon. They're like, oh my god, where is he? And then he ends up being, like, kidnapped by like, his old village before he left for, like, the city. Now, he's in a relationship with Elena, which is a big plot point, which, in my opinion, could have been the main plot point if you wanted to go that way, but apparently, according to the author, well, as he wrote this novel, he wanted to have, like, 17 different plot points, and then lazily stitch them together in a horrible fucking manner, man. Like, I'm a fan of Wesley Chu, and this was just such a disappointment to me. Like, when he gets captured by the villagers and he finds out, like, he sees Mei Li, who was his older sister's best friend, or his sister's best friend. He's all happy because he's like, oh my god, I found a home. And then, like, Elena gets back to the beacon, and then she's like, well, I gotta go find him, because she's like, he's alive, I love him, And then she, like, she goes off and fucking goes to find him. And then he finds out she's alive, and he's like, he goes back with them, and it turns into this whole big drama fest, right? Because he took pictures, he has, like, a camera. He took pictures with Mei Li. And then she finds these pictures, and she's like, he's cheating on me, that bastard. After he, like, because he, like, leaves to go back to the village because the typhoon of zombies is coming, and he's like, well, I gotta go with them, but, you know, I mean, other shit is happening. Like, I know I'm not giving you a very in-depth description of what's going on, but I just feel like this is me rambling in a review sense that, like, that I was just upset by this book, and zombies are such a good plot device because they make killing off characters very easy. They make dramatic situations easy. But when you don't feel that tenseness and you don't feel like anyone can die, then the zombies are without point. You know, like, I never felt that Wenju until the end, because spoiler alert, if you're really interested in this novel, I mean, go out and find it. It's in paperback now, so you can get it pretty cheap, like a Barnes and Nobles. It's in like a floppy paperback. So if you really want to get it, go off and get it and experience this fucking thing for your fucking self. But like, he dies at the end, but like, I didn't feel any sort of tension with regards to his life. Like, I was like, Wenju is supposed to be the super fucking talented windrunner scavenger bro, and he's like the best, and like, he's not on the main team, but like, he's the leader of this one, and he's great. And apparently, like, everyone is a crack shot with a longbow in this universe, which is fucking hilarious to me. I mean, like, I have done archery. I enjoy it. It is very difficult, but it is something I enjoy. You gotta be a special kind of bitch to be a crack shot with a longbow, like, without a sight, or like, when it's not even like a compound. Like, you've gotta be something else to hit shit from afar, especially like a person, like a small target from like afar. Like, you must be Robin Hood, bitch. I don't know what you are, but you're fucking Robin Hood. I was baffled. And there's like just a lot of like random shit that happens. There's literally like basically like a kung fu battle. Like, it was not a kung fu, you know, fight. Like, not in the traditional sense of like, you're thinking like, you know, Legend of the Monkey King or something, or like any of the kung fu Chinese television programming or movies that you might have seen. But there's like a full-on brawl with monks near the end of this novel that ends with like people literally being like decapitated and shit. And while that was a very interesting point of the novel, I was like, what is happening? Like, the whole time in this book is like, what the fuck is going on? Because like, honestly, I think this could be read as like a critique of like communist China, right? Like, I don't know if that's what he's going for, and that's fair if he's not. And I was just reading into it because I've taken Chinese history classes and stuff like that. But it feels like it could be read as like a critique of communist China. Excuse me while I take a drink. Sprite Zero is so good. Yeah, like a critique of like communist China. Cause like, you have Secretary Gao, and he's like, or Guao, and he's like in his office, and he's just completely like locked down, kind of unaware of the outside world, and clinging to power and clinging to this vision of like they call it the living revolutions, like the people who are going to survive and fight against the dead. And it very well rings as something like, you know, like a delusion, not of grandeur, but just a delusion where it's like, I really want to live, so if I keep telling myself I'm gonna live, eventually I'm gonna live, you know, like. And that's not necessarily like reality, which is in fair case like what a lot of people would do. But he's like the leader of these people, so it comes off, you know, as this like obviously like crazy delusional leader who's leading basically in a communist style where people have to get points to get food, to get shelter, and things like that. Certain amount of points are required to take a shower, and these points are accumulated by scavenging. And it's a very interesting system, but it's not the main point of the novel, is my problem. Because I think that, like, while I enjoyed the whole, like, oh my god, the drama of, like, Wenju and Mei Li and, like, Elena, like, I keep saying like and so much. It wasn't, like, it felt like the main point of the novel. And then, like, you had all the, like, critique stuff of, like, the critique on the government and the critique on, like, the way they're utilizing their power and the way they punish people, because people who do something wrong get sent to like the charred fields, which is like this area around the cause they're at a water plant because they can get clean water, which is rare because the zombies have infested the natural water systems, like waterfalls and everything like that, with rivers and everything. like fresh water. They've infested fresh water. So, like, it's understandable, and they punish people in certain ways, and people are, docked points or docked, like, technology time, which is basically like they can charge their devices. So if you have like an MP3 player, you could charge it. Like, I really liked that part where we got into the intricacies of the Beacon of Light, which is the water plantation where the 3,000 people live and go and scavenge from and everything like that. And like the intricacies of the Beacon of Light are very fascinating and super duper interesting, because it is like a mini government that's functioning, and then they're being told that, like, oh no, the Chinese government's gonna come and save you because the typhoon's coming and they want to leave, right? Heng Yen is like, we need to leave, we need to go because, like, we're not gonna survive this, right? And Secretary Gao was like, no, like, we'll be, the military's coming, I've talked to the military, they're coming, right? And so you kind of have that interesting idea of, like, what information's true and information isn't. Are we gullible? Are we holding on to hope too much? And, like, while I think all of that's really fascinating, I honestly think that the story with, like, Wenju and Elena takes away from that a lot. Because Wenju and Elena is basically like a love story. It is a very clear-cut love story. And if it was a little bit more intertwined with maybe like the critique of like communism and everything, it would be more interesting, because obviously Elena is a Caucasian woman from America, from Texas specifically, so she would have a very different outlook on the world, but we don't really get that. We don't get that different outlook. We don't like she says, oh, she's not really for the living revolution, but she's doing it so she can go home. Like, she thinks that during the zombie apocalypse, they're gonna open, like, a fucking strip on the tarmac and let her lift off to America or some bullshit like that. And I was like, I don't understand how you could ever fucking believe that's gonna happen. Like, do you know how long a flight from Texas to China is? No, there's stop-off. She's not gonna get to fucking Texas, bitch. Like, I don't understand what she was thinking. Like, I understand, like, the idea of this book is maybe, like, false hope or something, but, like, I would not have the false hope within my fucking spirit and soul to believe that I was gonna get back to America. Like, absolutely not. I'd be like, I'm here, I'm in China now, and this is where I'm gonna die, and fuck it. Like, that would be my personal philosophy. Like, I'd say fuck it. This is where I'm gonna die, this is where I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna hold out any sort of false hope, because I'd be fully aware that it's not gonna happen. I don't even understand how it did happen. Like, why would you ever think that? But, like, they're not... He doesn't use Elena to make any sort of, like, political statement. She's just fucking there, and she's just Wenju's bitch. Like, she's his woman, and she thinks he's cheating on her when she takes a picture of Mei Li that he took while he was at the village compound, and then she goes to, like, get him because they're, like, rounding up the villages around there so they can help build fortifications for the typhoon coming, and she decides, well, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go grab those bitches, right? Which, honestly, without giving you the full, like, everything that happened in the book, obviously, like, I fucking understood it, but the problem is that, like, I don't think that should have been the main plot. Like, I understood, oh, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but she was actually in the wrong because he wasn't fucking Mei Li, because that was just a childhood friend, but, like, how was she supposed to know? Not the point. It would have done like, I know he wanted to have a specific, like, it was clear that he wanted to have something that was, like, a specific emotional thing. But he also wanted to have all the government stuff and all the, like, what's truth, what's the lie, where's the line between false hope and, like, realistic hope. And that was really interesting, but having that mixed with the Wenju and, Elena story was just so much. Because we also have a lot of time with Heng Yen. I'm so sorry about the pronunciation. And while those are, like, integral to the plot, I mean, maybe integral to the plot. Honestly, only when he's with, like, the secretary to give you those beats on, like, the government system. Most of the time, his sequences are completely fucking useless. Like, honestly, there's, like, a lot of conversation that's happened in this book where I'm like, we don't need this, right? Because there's, like, they're gonna plant explosives to try to curb the typhoon, right? So they go off, and, like, all of this is happening in tandem with all the shit happening with Wenju and Elena. So, like, as a reader, I'm getting sidetracked from what I believe is the main story to go on this little fucking expedition to blow up a bridge. And I'm like, and then, like, a bunch of people die, But I didn't know any of those people. We had brief interactions, and some of them no interactions. So why do I give a shit? Like, yeah, they're dead. Okay. And what? I don't care. You know, and this is why, like, Feed was a great book. This is separate. But, like, I'm using it as a example. Because I don't read a lot of zombie books. I'm not, like, big on, like, zombie books. I just think that, like, unless it's, like, emotional, it doesn't do a lot, you know? It's like playing, like Walking Dead Telltale, like, the first season. Like, damn, that was great video gaming, right? And then the rest of it was just, like, shit. And, like, the rest of the seasons weren't worth my time. Like, yeah, Clem was great and everything, but it was the emotional impact of playing Lee. It was the emotional impact of being a bad person, a person who has done something illegal, killed his wife, and taking on the responsibility of taking care of a child, and then, like, having a patchwork family, and then watching them die, and then dying yourself. Like, that was really emotional and wonderfully done. And it, like, it's like this. There was a lot of moments that he tried for it, but like Feed and like Walking Dead Telltale game did so much better, because like Feed focused on a brother and a sister, and one of their friends who's with you through the whole book, in the middle of the book, gets killed, and it's fucking emotional, and she's crying and he's crying, and you're like, holy shit. Like, that is how you do it. You bring us close to somebody, you give us time, you give us that those moments that make you say, I want this person to live, I want this person to survive. And then when they don't, you feel like, oh my god, anyone could die. Because that's the point of a zombie apocalypse. Anyone could die. You are not safe. And everyone eventually becomes this thing. And Typhoon didn't do that. There's a sequence that I would say reminds me a bit of a sequence in the Telltale game. Spoilers for Walking Dead Telltale Season 1? I mean, like, do you need that? I honestly doubt. If you're, like, a video game player, and you were, you know, a video game player in, like, 2011 or whatever, not even a video game player, if you had, like, a fucking phone, an iPhone in 2011, you've played the Walking Dead Telltale series, like, at least Season 1. Like, spoilers for that, but, like, do you need it? There's a sequence in this novel that is supposed to be extremely emotional, and it doesn't work. And let me explain what happens. Once again, it's like, it's near the end of the book, so if you do want to read this book, I know I've spoiled a lot of it, go out and read it. I mean, if I was to read a Wesley Chu novel, the first Wesley Chu novel, I would recommend Lives of Tao. It is great. It is exciting, it's funny, it's interesting, it's amazing, and I loved his writing, and this was just a major disappointment. So I wouldn't recommend reading this book, but I would recommend reading Lives of Tao, because it's very well done. And that is major science fiction, but it's also espionage, so if you're into, like, spy shit and aliens and basically end of the world shit, get into it, because Lives of Tao is great. So is the Io duology, but as a person who accidentally read Io first, please read the Lives of Tao first, because the Lives of Tao trilogy, because they're in the same world. So, like, I mean, you can read Io without it, because, like, I did, and have enough context. But, like, if you want to just keep going through the whole thing, you just start with Tao. Beyond the point. I was just trying to recommend a better book by Wesley Chu. The sequence that I'm referring to is when they get to this kind of, they're on a river. And this is Wenju, and he has a new wind team at this point. He's not with Elena and Bo because they got injured, and they're recovering from their injuries. They get to this, like, big, it's like a, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a riverboat. If you ever, like, been in, the way to describe it is, like, if you've ever been to Disney World and you see the big, like, paddle boat that they have, is kind of that, like, big parade boat thing, but this one's, you know, it's very Chinese inspired, kind of like Forbidden Palace looking river boat for, like, tourists is what I would say it is, because that's what they, like, describe it as, like, a tourist boat. So I can imagine it's like some big boat where you take like a nice, like, river tour at night, have, like, a good meal, like that kind of thing. It's quite big as they describe it, and it's supposed to be very emotional because they find cannibals, which is a big thing in zombie apocalypse world building, is you know, the inevitability of eating your fellow man, much like the zombies, but you are more of a monster because you are not brainlessly doing it, you are not animalistically doing it, you are doing it to survive, but it's wrong. You're doing it cognizantly, like you're fully aware of what you're doing and it's wrong. So they come across cannibals, but he's saying we can't take these people, and then he brings them to the people and their children. They're young children. Now, as a reader, you're supposed to be shocked and be upset because you're like, oh my god, these kids have been eating people. That's so sad. But it doesn't work because, like, I don't know. And, like, no one that he brought with him. The problem is that no one that he brought with him is anyone we know. So all this wind team, the new scavenging team that he's with, we don't know who the hell they are. We have no idea about anything about them. Who the fuck are you? Who are you? I don't fucking know. You're not telling me. And, like, we get a brief description of, like, oh, well, one of them lost her kids. But, like, we don't know who the fuck these people are. So when, like, the little girl, like, bites a chunk out of a woman's neck, I'm like, I don't know this woman. I don't know this little girl. Shoot them both. I don't give a shit. Because I'm not that fucking concerned. And that's the problem, right? Because, like, I don't feel emotional attachment. I don't really know anything about these kids. I don't know what they've been through, or we don't even learn what led them to this, or how old they are, or how many of them there are. There's just kids, and they're cannibals, and that's sad. And it's like, that doesn't work. And if they're not attacking anyone we care about, right, then we don't feel anything. And what I think the strongest part of zombie crap is like, and I'm not talking about, like, Resident Evil. I mean, at least not, like, you know, later games and the movies. Like, I'm not talking about pure action zombie movies, but I'm talking about, like, zombie movies and books and games that play on your emotions, you know, like Last of Us and stuff like that, where there are emotional stakes. And that is where zombie things are very strong. The idea that you could watch someone you love die in front of you and turn into a monster that will turn around and eat you, and that's terrifying, right? But, like, because we don't know any of these kids, and because we don't even know how many there are, how old they are, because we don't know the people on the scavenging team, you don't feel that emotional connection, and you don't feel anything when you asked to kill them. You know? I didn't. I mean, maybe I'm a sociopath. Fuck, I don't know. But it was just so, like, so badly constructed and so poorly executed. And then to compare with the cannibals, right? Once again, spoiler for Telltale. You come to this beautiful farm where these people seem to be prosperous and everything seems to be wonderful. And you're gonna be fed. Like, you're playing Lee, and Clem is hungry, and you're hungry, and you've been working and slaving, and you're running out of food, and it's awful. And then you find this place, and it seems wonderful. And then one of your people goes missing, and now we've had time to bond with him. We know him. We've had to survive with him, so we're emotionally connected to him, right? And then boom. Sorry, my lamp's off base. I know this is completely stupid, but it's bothering me. There it goes. Sorry. Boom! He's gone. And then you're being fed some sort of, like, ham steak. And you find out, shit, ham steak's human leg, bitch. And you run down there and you have to stop Clem from eating it. And you have a time limit. And that shit is fucking terrifying. Because these people are gonna fucking eat you, man. They're gonna eat you. People you love, too. People you've learned to be close with. And that is the strength of a zombie book, a zombie game, and a zombie movie. Like, watch something like fucking... Like, I know not everyone liked it, but, like, Cargo on Netflix with Martin Freeman. That's emotional shit. That is emotional shit. A man who is dying needs to get his baby somewhere safe because he doesn't want his baby to die, and he doesn't want to eat his fucking baby. That shit is emotional, okay? And then he develops, like, a fucking father-daughter bond with this, like, little, I believe she's an Aboriginal girl. They're in, I believe Australia, but it might be New Zealand. I think it's Australia. And it's very emotional when he dies, and it's so sad, and, you know, it's that emotion that helps, but it's so lacking in this book because honestly, no one that is important actually dies in this book. How Bo dies, and you learn to love him. He's probably one of the best characters in the book. He's kind of like a big and dumb but sweet kind of guy who's like, I'm big and I can attack shit, but I'm kind of dumb. So they have to like bring him around, but he sacrifices himself to save his friend. He's fucking lovely, and he fucking dies. And that was the only death where I was like, oh, how Bo, you know? Because I was like, he was sweet. But it happens at like the end of the book, like literally like 20 pages from the end of the book. So it's not really like I was expecting like mid-book fucking people dying, and like none of that happened, man. And the people who did die mid-book, honestly, if you were to read it, you'd be like, who was that? Because honestly, who the fuck was that? Like, who was that? They described like, oh, one of the twins. Who the fuck are the twins? I don't even know. Like, and one of them survived, and I was like, who the fuck was that? They call him like the Hundun twin, which they said was like Chinese for asshole. I don't know if it is or not, but that was what was in the book. He's like the asshole twin. But I don't even know which one that was, you know? And like, Wang Fa doesn't die until the very end. Secretary Gao doesn't die until the very end. And I'm not talking, very, very, I'm talking like right before the fucking epilogue. Okay, I'm talking after the typhoon hit. They all survived it. Well, because Secretary Gao fucked off and like ran away like a little pussy, but that's really not the point. And then like, Hen Yang, who's in the middle of the typhoon, bitch, jumps into the typhoon with like 2 knives raised, like, I'm going down with the living revolution, motherfucker, and then he survives it, but then like loses his mind. Like, if you read this book, he loses his mind at the end, right? He's all like, let me actually, I have it tabbed. I will read this out loud to you because I have it tabbed. I tabbed this book. This is the very end of the book. This is 373 pages in. It's right before the epilogue starts, right? And Heng Yan, I believe his name to be, comes back, survived the typhoon, bitch. He jumped in with his 2 knives and was apparently so badass that this fucking Red Sea of fucking zombies parted for his badassery. His fucking parkour, jumping, military, parachuting bitch ass parted because he's such a bad bitch. He comes and he's like, because Wang Fa and like Secretary Guao, they done fucked off, right? And then he comes back, he's gonna kill Secretary, and he goes, and the Secretary Guo's like, Windmaster, I'm so glad to see you're alive. You were right all along. A tactical retreat was the right decision. That's what I'm trying to do. We needed a contingency plan to safeguard our supplies. I'm ensuring the survival of the living revolution. Mind you, it's all bullshit, because this man is, like, absolutely delusional. He's like, oh, the living revolution! Like, dude, like, what? It's just called survival, bitch. And then Hen Yang goes, you are correct, Secretary. The living revolution is indeed alive and well. Its true nature, however, is not to simply stand against the dead. The dead are not our only enemy. Like the Civil War and the Cultural Revolution before, which, my god, way to just spell it out for the reader what you were trying to do, my man. Like, girl. No! The living revolution must not only defeat enemies from the outside, we must also cleanse ourselves from the inside. Only when the tainted and corrupted are gone will the survivors be pure and golden. Now, I'm getting the idea that he lost his shit. Because, like, no one describes people as being pure and golden unless you've gone fucking tits up to Sunday. Like, you've lost your fucking shit. Like, you are, you know, you're losing your shit. Like, I can't even come up with a metaphor, man. I'm just saying, what the fuck? And, like, honestly, like, do they really need to spell out the Civil War and the Cultural Revolution? Because, like, if you read this book and you know anything about Chinese history, you're really gonna pick up on that kind of stuff real quick. As soon as you get hit the beacon of light, you're gonna pick up on it, and you're gonna pick up on the whole, like, when they have the monks, basically in prison camps. I mean, I don't know when this was, like, written. Let me look. We do some research. Yeah, 2019. Yeah. 2019, damn. To end up in Ollie's. It was written only a year before I picked it up. Fuck. But yeah, like, 2019. So, like, you know, very, very, you know, yeah, I mean, you'll pick up on it quick if you know anything about China. But I didn't like that it was spelled out for us. I've got a few more things kind of like throughout the book that are kind of like there's a few scenes that I just didn't really like. Like when they're trying to escape, she's trying to help. Elena was a bitch when she went to pick up the villagers. And she like cut a girl's face and was like, "Tell me where Wenju is, bitch." And, you know, they don't trust her and everything, but she's trying to help them out because she's like, I need to atone for my sins. Basically just because she found out that Wenju wasn't fucking somebody else, and that was enough to make her go, maybe I went too far. I mean, I don't know, I probably would have gone just as far. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I would have beat his ass too. And then, like, in the middle of the typhoon, like, coming in, they're escaping, and Wan Fa's just, like, sitting there smoking a fucking like, not a ciggy, I was gonna say ciggy, cigar. Like a full-ass, like, puff cigar. On, like, a folding chair. And I was just like, what is this, like, supervillain shit? Like, I was like, what is this, like, James Bond, like, Dr. No? Like, I'm gonna sit in a folding chair while the zombies just come in and smoke a cigar? And then he monologues. He fucking monologues. And I was like, what is happening, right? Like, he's monologuing. And then it reminded me of that line from Incredibles where, like, Syndrome is like, you sly dog, you got me monologuing. Like, it was one of my favorite lines. But I was like, why is he monologuing in the middle of this, like, this fight? It was so much. And it's just like pretty long monologue that kind of like goes, it's happening during the fight. Like they're fighting each other. Wenju and Wang Fa. And he's monologuing, trying to hold this cigar in his mouth while he's having like a full out battle. I'm just like, this has turned into something else, man. Like, what is happening? I mean, it is a near the end, I would say this book is a wild ride. Not in the beginning. Curb your enthusiasm for the first, like, 150 pages of the book. Because you're not going to feel a whole hell of a lot. But once you get past that, I mean, it's a wild ride. It's, like, 9 different plots with, like, 35 characters, and half of them you don't even know who the fuck they are. But it's a wild fucking ride. It's so much. And then, like, chapter 23 is titled Paradise Lost, which I just had to laugh because I'm a college student and I'm currently in a Milton course where we're reading Paradise Lost and, you know, doing all that fun stuff. And I was just like, wow. Just on the nose, man. Like, we're falling from heaven into the hell that is the beacon of light. I was like, do we need this? Do we need it to be spelled out like this? Because we don't, though. We don't. Like, if you have, like, an intelligent reader, or a reader who has any sort of, like, knowledge about literature in general, you don't, or literature, or, like, even, like, history, or just anything, like, you don't need to, like, spell things out so much for the reader, and, like, it's, like, borderline offensive, because it makes you think that, like, the author thinks you're dumb, you know? And there's, like, some good scenes where, like, there is, like, a, you know, like, he tries really hard to get you emotionally connected, but it just doesn't end up working. And I think it just doesn't end up working because, like, the things that he tries to take away from you, like, the people, quote-unquote, he tries to take away from you are people that we know, aren't people that we're close with in the book. So, like, when like, you know, we fight the heaven monks, and the husband and wife get killed, it's not emotional. Because we don't fucking know them. We met them once. There's, like, one small sequence, and Elena was allowed to stay in their, like, encampment for a night. And that was it. And it just doesn't work. Because it's like, well, like, I don't know them. I don't know who they are. I don't know their story. I don't know anything about them. So why would I care? And that's kind of where you cross that line in, like, literature, especially when you're trying to make something emotional, is like you got to make it emotional with the people it matters with. You have to at least introduce them in a way that like makes us emotionally attached to them. And the way that like the wife of the Heaven Monk guy is introduced is just she looks like a badass. She's a badass. Like Elena says she's a badass, and that's it. That's kind of what we get. And it's like, no, we need more than that. We need to have if they have like a heartfelt conversation. And they both like are talking and we feel connected, and Elena feels connected to her, and there's this beautiful moment. And then Elena is torn between protecting her friend Halbo or protecting her friend and killing this woman, or remembering that emotional moment and being like, I can't kill this woman. And then she has to choose her friend. That is an emotional send-off. That is, she had to choose her friend. It's not, this bitch is a badass. Oh no, I have to kill her. Oh my god, I'm sad. And then she's like sad about it. And it's like, no, we need more. We need more. And that's just where the book lacked. It was just like, I mean, honestly, if you're just looking for like a real fucking random shit-ass book who's like, you want to read about weird communist regimes in the midst of the zombie apocalypse, go for it. Live the fantasy. I don't think this book is like, I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. So I'm not saying it's like the best book ever written. But it's like doable. It's fine. It is what it is. I just was infuriated by just how like I didn't, there's just so many sequences that weren't needed, and a lot of sequences that were needed to really tie together the emotional impact of the novel, especially at the end when we see like Wenju's like literal collared zombie corpse, because like Elena said, I promised him before he died that I'd let him see you when she meets the sister before he died, or at least see her one last time. Like, I needed so much more for that to be emotional, and it really didn't feel emotional to me, and that was where the book died. It's just the lack of emotion, the lack of care I had, and the lack of tense, like, I'd never felt tense for the characters. I never felt like someone was going to die until someone did die, and then I wasn't really surprised or really upset, unless it was Halbo. Halbo was the only death where I was like, oh, that's sad, but it wasn't like, oh my god, devastating, because, like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I fucking cried at the end of Feed. Like, you would think, oh, it's a zombie book, like, whatever. No, I fucking cried. Now, I have a bit of a more of an emotional connection to the characters in Feed, because, you know, it's a brother and a sister, and I have an older brother whom I love very dearly. His birthday is on Valentine's Day, and he, you know, loves that. Ew. Oh my god. What is that? I'm sorry, I thought I had a gray hair in my book. Anyway. Like, I cried at the end of Feed. I felt so emotionally connected to the characters. I mean, you have like, oh god, like, you have like almost 600 pages to get like super emotionally connected. And it's so, it may be long, but it is fucking great. And like, I would read this book. I would recommend Mira Grant's Feed. Please read this if you want good zombies. It's a series. I haven't read the rest of them. I think the next one's like Deadline. I haven't read it, so I'm not gonna attest to whether it's good or not. But if you're looking for good zombie literature, please read Feed by Mira Grant. It's really good. It's really emotional. Walking Dead comic series, absolutely. The omnibus is everywhere. You can find it. Great zombie games. There's a lot of them. Resident Evil, the early ones. I'd say around 4, they deep dive into something batshit insane. But, like, you know, those are good. If you want an emotional one, definitely at least the first season of the Walking Dead Telltale one. Really emotional. Really beautiful. Really well done. If you already played it, because you probably have. Last of Us, the first game, not the second one. Very emotional, very well done. Very beautiful, visually stunning. I would play that. Walking Dead Typhoon, I would not recommend this book. I gave it a low score. But if you're looking for just like a batshit crazy time in China and you want to read about just random involvement with zombies with really no emotional impact, like, go for it. Go off. It is what it is. It's a thing that happened, and it is what it is. I don't know. If you want to read a Wesley Chu novel, or just try Wesley Chu as an author, please read The Lives of Tao. I've said it multiple times during this. Please read The Lives of Tao. This is not his best work. He also has like a fucking small series with Cassandra Clare. I don't like Cassandra Clare. I don't read that shit. But I mean, if that's your shindiggity dig and you like Cassandra Clare's fucking writing and you have like little to no taste, read that. He probably improves it just a little bit. I mean, unless it's like this, then it's not improved. I think maybe Wesley Chu should just not work in the confines of somebody else's intellectual property and just work in his own. Because like Walking Dead is someone else's intellectual property. So just read his original works, just not this shit. Or really the Cassandra Clare one. Like, I haven't read it. It might be good. I don't know. Just don't read it. Once again, you could probably find this pretty cheap if you're really interested in it. I kind of gave away a lot of it, but like, if you're interested, read it. You know, it could be something. I think the next midnight RambleCast I'm going to do is going to be on Dean Koontz's Demon Seed. It's a very short novel. It's a novella. It's about an AI that becomes aware and has some real Freudian shit going on in it. So if you're interested in listening to me ramble about that, that's going to be a RambleCast that I'm going to do, because I did just finish reading it today. And I'm also going to be releasing my Zombies podcast soon, and that's still on the same channel, Space Channel 9. It's going to be a bigger deep dive than I did on anything zombie related, and this is going to have historical background. I'm going to talk more about what makes zombies scary rather than what makes a story emotional, because I think I went into a little bit about the emotion of the story, and kind of what makes us as human beings afraid of the concept of zombies. If you're really interested in something like that, that's going to be released. I know I may not have said my name. My name's Maddie. So I'm going to be releasing, you know, a lot of stuff on this channel. And I might set up an Instagram. I don't really know. Depends on how I feel. Depends on what I'm feeling in the moment. Obviously, these RambleCasts are me just going off in directions and talking randomly. So if you just want to listen to someone ramble, that's literally what these are. But the other ones are going to be way more, my normal podcast, especially the zombie podcast is coming out soon, is going to be way more succinct. It's going to be way more, not just me rambling. I'm going to have like points that I'm going to make. This is just me talking about a book, and kind of giving recommendations. But yeah, so everything's going to be released on this channel. You can follow me on my Goodreads if you want to see what I'm currently reading, because the RambleCasts are majority going to be what I'm reading at the time. Because I am a video game design and English major. I'm a double major, so I do read a lot. So if you want to see what I'm currently reading, you can follow me at Systematic, and there's a space, Maddie on Goodreads, and you can see what I'm currently reading, and you can see what scores I've given books in the past. If you're really interested in that, if you think that anything I've said today was interesting at all. If not, that's totally fair, because I ramble, and that's kind of why I did this. And shout out to my big bro. Happy birthday. I know you feel like you're getting old, but you are just as wonderful as you were 10 years ago. So, I mean, you're a little older, but you're fine, you know? You're great. And for any statements I said regarding drinking alcohol, be well assured I am 21 or over, so it's fine, and I'm not doing anything illegal in my apartment. I hope you have a lovely night. The Midnight RambleCast will most likely be released like in the night time usually. I intend to release them when I get finished. Like, they're not really edited that much because I really just want to give you the full experience of me rambling like a psycho, because I feel like that's what I do best in life, is ramble like a psycho. Yeah. So just look out for those, and if you liked any of this shit that I have said, please subscribe to this channel and enjoy my shit. I don't think that's like an outro, but I'll have one. Alright. This is Space Channel 9 signing off. I am not ooh la la, but I could be as entertaining. But not really. Thank you. Good night.